You're at the counter, counting coins you already know won't be enough. You do it anyway because there's a ritual to being broke. Line 'em up, stack 'em, pretend the total might surprise you this time. The cashier doesn't look annoyed, just tired in the same way you are, like both of you are stuck in a loop neither of you chose. You're calculating whether to put something back when your phone buzzes. Unknown number. You almost ignore it. You don't owe anyone anything, and no one owes you anything. That's the rule you've learned. You answer because you're stalling. The voice on the other end is controlled, official, rehearsed. They ask your name, you confirm it. They ask if you purchased a lottery ticket 3 days ago at a convenience store you barely remember. You say yes because it cost you the last loose cash you had, and you told yourself it was a stupid thing to do. The voice pauses just long enough to rearrange your life. You've won. Not a few thousand, not a million. $500 million. You laugh because that's the only reasonable response to something unreasonable. The cashier watches you like you've lost your mind. You hang up, call the number back, confirm it's real. It's real. They give you instructions. Don't tell anyone yet. Secure the ticket. Come to an office. Bring identification. The words come fast, like they're trying to keep you from thinking too much. You look at the coins on the counter. You leave them there. By the time you get outside, you're already calculating risk. Who knows? Who could know? You retrace your steps to the convenience store in your head, the people who were there, the cameras. You realize something quickly. This change is nothing unless you make it real. Until you claim it, it's just a piece of paper and a voice on the phone. But the moment you claim it, everything changes at once. Your name might become public. Your family, what's left of it, might get dragged into something they didn't choose. Strangers will have opinions about you, expectations, demands. You check your pocket again. The ticket is still there. It feels heavier now. You don't go home. Home is predictable. Predictability is now a liability. Instead, you sit in your car and think about the first decision that actually matters. Who do you trust? The answer is no one. Not because people are evil, but because money at this scale rewrites incentives. You've seen what small amounts do to people. This is not small. You drive to a bank you've never used and rent a safety deposit box in cash. You put the ticket inside. The clerk doesn't care. It's just another transaction to them. To you, it's containment, the first step in controlling something that could easily spiral. That night, you don't sleep. You map out scenarios. If your name goes public, you need legal protection. If it doesn't, you need structures to keep it that way. You search for lawyers, but not the flashy ones, the ones who deal with estates, trusts, anonymity. You read about people who won less than you and lost everything. Divorce, lawsuits, addiction, isolation. The pattern is clear. The money isn't the danger, it's the reaction to it. By morning, you've made your first strategic move. You call a law firm that specializes in wealth management and asset protection. You don't tell them everything. You test them. You ask hypothetical questions about large inheritances, about anonymity laws, about trust structures. You listen to how they answer. Careful, precise, not overly excited. That's what you want. Within 48 hours, you're sitting in a conference room signing documents that will define the rest of your life. A trust is created. Your identity is shielded as much as legally possible. The ticket is claimed through an entity that isn't you, at least on paper. The money moves, not into your hands, but into layers, accounts, investments, safeguards. You don't celebrate, you observe. The first consequence arrives before the ink is dry. Your phone fills with missed calls from unknown numbers. Some are reporters who got partial information. Some are scammers casting wide nets. One is a distant relative you haven't spoken to in years. You don't answer any of them. You change your number by the end of the day. You think you've created distance. You haven't. You've created a vacuum. Money attracts gravity. People sense it even when they don't understand it. Friends start reaching out more often, not asking directly, but circling. You hear it in their tone, the way they probe your life. Everything okay becomes, what are you up to these days? You realize something uncomfortable. Even if they don't know, you do. Every interaction now has a second layer, a calculation you can't turn off. Are they genuine, or would they change if they knew? You decide to test that question in reverse. You tell one person, someone you trust more than the rest, though you're not entirely sure why. You watch their reaction. Shock, then excitement, then something else, an adjustment. Within minutes, they're suggesting ideas, investments, trips. You could change everything. They mean well. That's what makes it dangerous. Intent doesn't neutralize impact. Within a week, 2 more people know. Within a month, 10. You never officially announce it, but information leaks the way it always does. Through conversations, assumptions, connections, you learn your second lesson. Control is temporary. Requests start small. Loans, not gifts. Emergencies, opportunities. Each one comes with a story, a justification that makes it hard to say no. You help at first. It feels right. You have more than you need, they have less. Simple math. But it's not math, it's precedent. The third request isn't like the first 2. It's larger, riskier. You hesitate. The person asking notices. The tone shifts. There's a subtle implication now. You've helped others, why not me? You realize that every yes has created an expectation for the next yes. You're not just giving money, you're setting rules for how people interact with you. You say no. The fallout is immediate, not explosive, but quiet. Distance, coldness. You hear later that you changed. You have, that's the point. But it doesn't feel like growth. It feels like loss. You adapt. You create systems, a formal process for requests, clear criteria, limits. You remove yourself from the decision-making where possible. It's not about being generous anymore. It's about being consistent. Fairness becomes your shield. Meanwhile, the money grows. You hire advisors, financial, legal, security. Each one adds a layer of complexity. You don't just have wealth, you have infrastructure. You review reports instead of bank balances. Percentages replace numbers because the numbers are too large to feel real. You make your first major investment 6 months in, not because you need to, but because you need to understand what this power actually does. You back a startup. It's risky, but calculated. You're not chasing returns, you're testing influence. The founders treat you differently from day one, not just as an investor, but as leverage. Your involvement changes how others perceive them. Doors open, deals accelerate. You realize that your money doesn't just buy things, it changes probabilities. The startup fails. Not dramatically, it just doesn't work. The founders pivot, then pivot again, then run out of time. You lose a fraction of your wealth, but you gain something more valuable: clarity. Money can amplify good ideas, but it can't create them. Influence has limits. You adjust your strategy, diversify, long-term stability over short-term excitement, index funds, real estate, private equity. Boring, but effective. You're not trying to win, you're trying not to lose. At the same time, you start thinking about purpose, not in a vague, philosophical way, but in a practical one. What does this money do besides exist? You explore philanthropy. You meet with organizations, evaluate impact, measure outcomes. You discover another uncomfortable truth. Giving money away is just as complex as making it, maybe more. You fund a program in your city, education, infrastructure, something tangible. You track results. Improvements are real, but uneven. Some people benefit, others don't. Systems resist change. You're not a savior, you're a variable. Years pass. The initial shock fades, replaced by routine. You wake up, review portfolios, attend meetings, make decisions that affect people you'll never meet. Your world has expanded and contracted at the same time. You have access to anything, but you trust very little. Relationships stabilize, but they're different. You've built new ones with people who operate at your level: investors, executives, advisors. There's an understanding there, a shared language, but it's transactional in its own way. You wonder if authenticity is something that scales or something that gets diluted as stakes increase. You revisit old relationships occasionally. Some recover, others don't.
You accept that money didn't create these fractures, it revealed them. The biggest shift comes in how you see risk. Before, risk was immediate: rent, bills, survival. Now it's abstract: market fluctuations, regulatory changes, geopolitical events. You're insulated from the former, exposed to the latter. Your decisions ripple outward in ways you can't fully predict. One year, a market downturn hits. Your portfolio drops by tens of millions on paper. You don't panic. You've prepared for this. But you feel it, not as fear, but as awareness. This isn't a game. These numbers represent real influence, real opportunities that can disappear if mismanaged. You hold steady. The market recovers. Your wealth grows beyond what it was before. You learn your fourth lesson: patience is a strategy. But not everything can be managed with patience. A legal challenge emerges. Someone claims entitlement to a portion of your winnings, an old acquaintance who says they contributed to the ticket purchase. It's not true, but truth isn't always enough. You engage your legal team. Evidence is gathered, arguments prepared. The case drags on for months. You consider settling. It would be cheaper, faster, but it would also set a precedent that claims against you can succeed. You choose to fight. You win. The cost isn't just financial, it's time, attention, stress. You realize that wealth doesn't eliminate conflict, it changes its form. Instead of worrying about paying bills, you're managing threats. Security becomes more than a concept. You upgrade your living situation, not for luxury, but for control. Access points, surveillance, protocols. You're not paranoid, you're realistic. The more you have, the more you become a target, not just for crime, but for manipulation. Through all of this, you keep returning to the same question: what is enough? You could stop, live comfortably, never think about money again. But you don't, not because you're greedy, but because you've become responsible for something larger than yourself. Employees depend on your decisions. Investments affect communities. Your choices create winners and losers, whether you intend them to or not. You didn't ask for this role, but you're in it. A decade in, your net worth has grown beyond the original 500 million. You've built systems that operate without you, but you still oversee them. Not out of necessity, but out of obligation. You've seen what happens when people disengage: decay, inefficiency, loss. You've also seen what happens when people overreach: hubris, collapse. So you walk a line: involved but not consumed, strategic but not detached. You think back to that moment at the counter, the coins you left behind. That version of you made decisions based on scarcity. This version makes decisions based on abundance. Both are constrained, just in different ways. You've learned to say no more than yes, to trust systems more than instincts, but not to ignore either, to accept that control is always partial. And still, the tension never fully resolves. There are always new opportunities, new risks, new people who enter your orbit with their own agendas. There are always decisions that could shift everything: an investment that could redefine an industry, a donation that could change a community, a mistake that could undo years of careful planning. You're no longer reacting to life. You're shaping it in small and large ways. That's the real consequence of winning, not the money, but the responsibility that comes with it. You don't get to go back to counting coins. You don't get to be anonymous in your own decisions. Every choice carries weight now. And every day, you wake up knowing that the number in your accounts is just the starting point. The real question is what you do with it and what it does to you in return. You haven't answered that question yet. You're not sure anyone ever does.